If your AI writes really well, but it doesn't sound like you're missing one key file, which is a voice file. And what we're going to do in Claude Code today, 20 minutes, the way I would do it if I was a financial advisor, trying to get some of my time back, trying to get Claude to actually work for me and do some of the things I've been meaning to do. Maybe it's a weekly newsletter or a nightly email. But the voice file is very important. And where people make the mistake is they try to describe their voice instead of actually handing it evidence, right? Send emails or post things that I've published and make it actually learn how you write. So then the final step, which is actually the most important step, is to get sample writing and actually edit it and give examples to Claude in real time. So by the end of this, your Claude Code should be writing in a way that sounds exactly like you, or at least 95% of the way there, so you can make editing or changes super easy. Okay, I've got Claude Code up, and if you haven't seen my previous videos, first video kind of explains the difference between ChatGPT, Claude Code. They're all the same. I think I just am a little bit more familiar with Claude. If you're a GPT user, if you're any other user, this is going to work in a very similar fashion. But what we want to do is be in Claude Code. So up here, top left, Claude Code. We don't want to be in the normal, chat area. We don't want to be in the cloud-based version of Claude because it does nothing. We want to be in Claude Code. In our last video, what I taught you to build was a memory file. This memory file keeps your work, what you're working on, all the goals that you want to accomplish. It knows everything about you. And then we built a routine to compound that learning over time with a nightly brain dump. What we're going to do in today's video is, I think, the next most important thing before you can actually get Claude to start doing some real work for you, whether that's an email update, whether that's a market update, a newsletter, a weekly correspondence, replying to emails, whatever that may be. You can't do it without doing this step. So this step is extremely important. And what that step is creating a voice file. So it knows kind of how you think and who you are, and it'll learn more and more over time as that memory file gets updated. But what it doesn't know is how you speak. We've all seen AI slop. It's terrible. You can tell immediately, right? I actually feel bad for the M dash. The more that I've kind of read a lot of AI stuff, the M dash is a little bit better than the comma in certain instances, but or semicolon, just depends. But you can see what is just an AI post, what is AI content, what is AI written. And it actually, as me as a reader or anybody as a reader, it kind of turns you completely off from wanting to consume the content or whatever it may be, because you're just, it just doesn't feel genuine. There's a certain writing style that's just a tell. So your AI out of the box, Claude Code, is going to write like that. Right? It's not just going to know how you speak, type, and do all these different things. And so like anything else, you have to train it, and we have to give it the right data and the right information to be able to do a better job for us. And that comes down to creating a voice file. So the first thing we're going to do, and again, I generally would just hit this button and talk into it and say, hey, I need you to create me a voice file. So we're going to start building on our voice, but let's just put in the first code here. We'll copy and paste it, the first prompt. Create a memory/voice file. One file. We're going to leave it empty for now because we're going to end up training you. The rules, sentence length, punctuation, how I open, how I close emails, words that I use, things that where my voice changes, right? Things that it needs to start learning about me. And so it's going to build this file and add it to our memory file. So if you recall from the last video, Claude Code is going to go, before it does anything for you, it's always going to read that memory file. So whenever you put any prompt in here, it's going to go and it's going to reference that memory file. It's going to reference the voice file, which is inside the memory file. And so it knows the type of output that you want is not going to sound and look canned. It's going to be as close to how you would speak as you need it to, and that's going to take a little bit of work. So it's done. It's created this voice.md file. It's putting all of these things in here. But now we actually have to train it. So great, we have a voice file. that does nothing for us. We actually have to train Claude. Here is how I would do this and how I would start. The first thing I would do is if you have a blog, if you have published articles, if you have published newsletter, if you're already writing notes to clients, right? Or if you're putting things on your blog, that content or that information is super important because you have written it and it's generally a little bit longer form. Now, for the sake of this video, I've created kind of like fake articles that we'll just give it here as a sample. But in practice and in reality, the way I would tell Claude to do this is, hey, go to our website and read our insights page, right? And consume all that information. Go to this URL and read, our daily newsletter that's been going out and train yourself on how that is all written. Like that's step one. In my case, because I have a podcast, go consume all of that media, figure out how I talk, sentence cadence, all of those things. So for the sake of this video, this is just a demo. We're going to give it published pieces. So we've got 2 full pieces here. We have a quarterly client newsletter. This is something we actually wrote, and a blog post. This is something that we actually wrote. And so it's going to ingest this information as kind of that first piece of information. So in practice, give it the links, give it the URLs, tell it where to go, tell it what to look for. If you have copies of stuff, that's great. You can do what I just did. But for the sake of this demo, you get the idea. We're giving it pieces of information like a client letter or a post, a blog post that we've already written. Or if you've got, interviews you've done, podcasts that you've recorded, whatever it may be, give it to Claude. It's going to start learning sentence structure from this. So this is step one. Step two is we are going to give it sent emails. Now, there's an easy way to do this. There's a harder way to do this. But the easiest way to do this is to go into your settings, go into extensions, browse extensions, and right here you can add as an integration your Gmail or your Microsoft 365. That integration is going to allow Claude to be able to read all of your sent emails and really get a input about how you write things. Now, I know I wouldn't give it like your personal email account unless you're setting this up personally. Again, this video is for financial advisors that are looking to like get some time back, be able to do some cool things and automate their business a little bit and find some efficiencies. So give it your business email. I know you may or may not be allowed to do that given your firm's rules around these sort of things. So what you can do is, if you think about certain, emails that you may have sent in the past that are a good reflection of how you write, and these are fake emails. But look, we have a fake email here that I sent something to a client. If you can go and find some really good examples, every once in a while you hit enter on an email, you're like, that was a great email. Like, go find that email and give it to Claude, and that's what it's really going to start learning from, is out of your sent emails. So you've got posts, you've got client letters, you've got client, maybe client correspondence, and then you've got sent emails. All of these sent emails is going to be, I would say, probably the best information you can give it other than your client quarterly newsletters and those things. Now, the other thing is, Claude Code's going to be able to decipher how it should write in a highly publicized client letter or in a draft me an email for to reply to this email, and it's going to know based on the situation which way it should maybe write. You might be a little bit more brief in emails and a little bit more wordy in other things such as a client newsletter. So here we go. The key findings. So it's starting to learn here is we've got 660 words. Not one of them is do not, is not, have not. So we have 0 contractions. Punctuation is periods, commas, and hyphens. We've got no quotation marks. We've got no em dashes. It knows our median, mean, and max sentence length. So 21% of sentences run 5 words or shorter. That's true in my own writing. It's probably even shorter than that. So look, it's learning all of these things. Now we've still got some sections that are unfilled, so it knows we need to keep working on it. So let's give it our email. So we're giving it sent emails to be able to start learning how we actually write our emails. The next section is social posts. So I would give it every single social post. And the way that I would do that is I would use Claude Code to like go out and do that research. Like, here's my X URL, here's my LinkedIn URL, wherever else you're posting content. If you're on Facebook and you're putting things out either on a personal or a business page, like, here are my social posts. So now it knows how am I supposed to write in a formal way? How am I supposed to write in an email? And what do I sound like on social media? And so it's analyzing these 14 emails, and it's going to like really harden up all of these things as we continue to iterate on this. Okay, those emails landed. I paused there for a second because it was taking a couple of minutes, about 4.5 minutes to be exact. So 4 minutes, it analyzed all these emails and it learned some new things, right? So it clarified that I really don't use dollar signs. The annuity pays you $41.80 a month, costs about $812,000. You have $4.1 million. Knows what my email, how I open emails. Email is blunter than published. So like I said, it's going to start figuring out the difference between what you publish and your emails, and it's going to start to really get into these minor differentials that are important when you're writing to clients. So we have all of this information that it just learned. And the next thing we do need to do is give it social posts. Like I said, you can give it links to this stuff, but for demo purposes, these are some of our LinkedIn posts. These are some of our X posts or tweets. This is some stuff from Facebook. This is how we talk on social, right? Just knowing myself, the way that I write on social media tends to be a little bit more like, at least I try to be, a little bit more witty and funny versus writing in an email, which is like short and sweet, or a little bit longer form when I'm actually writing a daily or like a weekly recap and getting it out to clients. So now it's analyzing these social posts. This is going to allow you to use Claude to help you draft social posts or edit social posts, whatever you need to do. I will caution you, don't just take what Claude writes or ChatGPT and post it to social media. It is going to be, it's very telling. It'll get you 90% of the way there, but I think you always need to have your little spin on it, and it's going to get us very close. And you'll read some and you'll be like, that's great. I would definitely post that word for word. But there's a certain structure in which Claude Code kind of writes, and we're going to fix that later in the video. But don't just think like, oh, I've got my voice file ready, I can just start going to post stuff. It's still not going to be quite there, and we're going to fix that as we get through the remainder of this video. Now, while it is reading these LinkedIn posts and everything else, it's going to start to figure out more things, and we're going to go to our next step. The next step is optional. I sent it. You don't have to. You actually don't have to send it either. You can integrate it. So again, inside of settings, inside of extensions, read and send iMessages. This is going to give it maybe a different flavor of how you write, but it's rounding out all of your forms of communication. The only thing we haven't given it is maybe, transcripts from meetings or recordings from phone calls. But this, again, is how we write. And the text message piece is a major form of communication, whether it's, and you could use that however, but this is training your AI voice to learn how you communicate, and this is a form. So if you don't want to give it your text messages, don't. If you want to give it maybe a certain text thread or text string, you can. Maybe you communicate with an assistant in your office or a partner in your office or an employee in your office. And it's like, hey, review these. And so it can help maybe make those conversations a little bit faster. you get a long text message from somebody who works for you or works with you, and you get it summarized. You're like, hey, reply back that like, these are my thoughts, and let it send. And again, that's going to take some trust and some work, and we're going to kind of close that loop end here. But so here it's got all of our social posts. Now it kind of knows how we write differently on social than what we write in maybe more formal means of communication. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it these text messages. And so we're going to give it fake text message, outgoing only. These are my texts, and it's going to start to learn this form of communication. Once we've trained it, the most important thing we can now do is to get samples, edit, and return. Where people make the biggest mistake is they're going to watch this video. They're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to throw into Claude Code this stuff, and it's going to be awesome. It's not. It's going to be maybe 80% of the way there. We want to get it to 95 to 100% of the way there. And the way you do that is sample, edit, and give that feedback. Where most people screw up is they never actually tell Claude Code what it did wrong. So they say, draft an email response for this particular issue. And it writes a draft response. They take it, they copy it, they paste it into their email, and then they start editing it inside of that email, and they send it. They never go back and say, hey, here's the changes I made, and here's why. You're not going to have to do this forever. You may have to do this for 15, 30 days. It depends on how much you're corresponding and how well you want to like really tighten this in. But if you want this like very tight, you need to give your edits and changes when you make them back to Claude Code and say, update my voice file with what you've learned from my edits. And so the end of this exercise is we've given it everything. And once it's done reading these text messages and like really refining, we're going to be like, hey, send me a sample email reply, and we'll do it right now. But here, so it's got what it needs. It's got its text. It's all lowercase. Text and emails are everything. It's going to give us everything we need here. And it says for compliance copy, if you have even 2 or 3 disclosure paragraphs, that's the last gap. So it tells me, it's like, hey, I've absorbed a lot of stuff here. I've learned a lot. But because I know you're a financial advisor, for compliance, if you can give me some 2 or 3 disclosure paragraphs so I don't write something I'm not supposed to do, that's also important. So like in my voice file, there is a hard rule. We manage funds. Don't use the fund tickers. Like leave them out of correspondence, leave them out of posts, leave them out of anything. So this piece, given that you're in the financial services business, is another step. I don't have a sample of that in here, but if you have, things that you cannot say, certain disclosures, make sure you train it. So the last step, and this is the most important step, and you're not going to solve it all in one sitting, but you will solve it over time, is a sample, edit, and then have it come back to me. So let's just ask it for something. Can you draft a sample reply email to a fictitious client that is upset with their monthly performance numbers? That's the other reason why I talk into my Claude, because I make a lot of typos because I try to type too fast. So what it's going to do, it's going to send us a fictitious email or fictitious reply. We're going to read that and we're going to figure out whether or not it's good or not good. My guess is it's going to be like 70 or 80% of the way there. Edit it, send it back, and just have it try again and continue to refine until, your email voice is tight. And then I would do the same with, hey, create me a weekend update for my clients based on what the stock market did this week. And this is actually a workflow that we are going to go over in a future video, which is how can we set up automated routine workflows that we can actually get really useful stuff to clients in a way that you're comfortable with that doesn't take up too much of your time. So here we go. It's giving us a sample. You were down 3.4% this month. I know, I saw it on Monday. Here's what happened. ba, 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 ba. So I'm going to take this. I'm just going to copy it. And I'm going to say, this is what I changed. Okay. So we'll paste it in here and I'm going to delete. I hate this. This is the number one AI tell, and you got to stop, have it to stop do it, is not like, it adds these like qualifying statements like nothing broke, or, you know, it's an AI. I can't describe it, but we're going to delete that. Call me Thursday if it still feels wrong. I will call you anyways. Call me Thursday if you have time. I'll be around. I will call anyways. And hopefully we can talk it through. And then I would say, this is what I changed. Please update the voice file to reflect it. And it's going to take that. It's going to start learning. Now, I would carve out some time and do this. In practice, though, where you can't drop the ball is when you have actually something that meaningful that you're working on. Like, this is just kind of calibrating. Think of it, we're calibrating the system here. But when you're get an email in that you need to respond to, and you're like, this is my thoughts around the situation. Can you write a reply? This is the things that are important that you reply with. And it gives you that email reply. When you copy it and you put it in to go send it, any edits that you make, give it back and make sure it updates the voice file in real time. And if you do that over and over and over again, in about a month, you're going to have a completely different voice that is going to sound a lot like you. And it's going to really get dialed in. So it says here, you cut, nothing broke, knows what we changed. It's starting to make corrections. It's updating the voice file. The one other thing I do, because I speak a little bit more like directly into the point, is there are different styles of writing. And I have mine set up to this particular style, which is an engineering style of voice. So it's going to stop sounding like a computer. And I would add, please add to memory in my voice file to write and communicate with me in ASD STE100 or simplified technical English. This is a very simplified version of English. I went to college, wasn't an English major. I don't know a bunch of fancy words. So a lot of my communication style is very simplified. It's very straightforward. It's like technical English. And this has taken my voice from like 95 to like 98 to 99% of the way there. And so this is, I would say, the fastest way, and we've been on here for 20 minutes, to get your AI to actually communicate with you and your clients and the world, if you're going to use it to help you write content or newsletters or whatever. This is the way to do it. So, most important, memory file. Second most important, voice file. Without those two things, you can't automate anything that's of any value, because you're going to have to be involved in editing and doing all these other things, rewrites, and it's just not useful. So this is the exact steps that I took, although the other things I did was actually give it links or actually give it integrations. But as you see, you get the idea. We want to do emails. We want to do anything we've written, any podcast we've done, any content we've done, anything from social media. Figure out what your writing, voice is in terms of, the definition, which is mine was closely this STE100. I don't even know what that means, but it got me closer. And train. 30 days, you're going to sound a heck of a lot better with output from AI. It's going to communicate with you better, and you're going to be less frustrated having to edit everything.